Hey guys, my name's Ika Dela Cruz, and today I'm going to be teaching you about character rigging. So first of all, I've already made a character on Photoshop, and what we're going to do is we're going to open it. By importing the file, make sure that you have the option of editable layer styles. Don't merge them, or else you're not going to be able to move each individual part. So when I made this character, I separated each body part from one another. So first of all, we're going to use the anchor point tool. The shortcut for this is Y. And what this does is that it moves the anchor point of each individual layer. Now, these anchor points determine how these things position themselves, rotate. In a sense, they pin them down to that certain point. Now, what we're going to be doing with this tool is that we're going to move the anchor points of each layer to put them at the joints. So, for example, the arm goes up to the shoulder, the head is attached to the top part of the body, the hair is attached to the head. Even for the braids, I've changed their anchor point so that they can swing from the hair. Legs are attached to the bottom of the body, etc., etc. Now, after you've moved all your anchor points and you've got them where you want them, what we're going to do next, we're going to parent each layer to another. So what parenting does is that it attaches a layer to another. Meaning, if you move the parent layer, the second layer moves along with it. Or if you rotate it, it rotates as well. This way, you don't have individual parts flying off or staying in place when you want it to move along with everything else. Of course, you can still move each individual layer as long as you don't move the parent layer. Now, for the parent layer, we're going to be using the body of our character. I've attached the head to the body, and then the arms, the legs. And for the parts of the head, I've parented them to the head. Now, what I'm doing right now is that I'm creating a null object. I'm parenting the body to this null object so that when you have a lot of parts, a lot of different elements in your composition, you can just move one specific one to move the whole character instead of moving all these individual parts or accidentally moving things when they shouldn't. A little tip, to make this a lot easier, especially when you've got so many layers going on, select everything and double tap U. It'll show and reveal everything and then hide all of it. What we're going to be doing now is that we're going to try making a walk cycle. So to do this, if you notice, if you click the arrows on the left of each layer, it'll reveal a whole bunch of different aspects that you can change about this layer, like rotation, position, scale. What we're going to be looking at right now is rotation. Now, the shortcut for this is you can press R, but if you want to explore or look around, you can open the arrow on the left. So now that we've selected this, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the leg. Now, if you notice on the left of rotation, there's a little sort of timer on it. If you click that, it creates a keyframe. Now, these keyframes are like marks for when each animation point starts or how it changes. So as you can see, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to move our slider to another point. So let's say 1 second or 1 frame after. And I'm going to rotate again. It creates another keyframe, meaning that from one keyframe to another, it will automatically animate it so that it changes. So in this case, the rotation. So you've got a leg swinging back and forth. Now I'm going to apply this to every other part of our character's body. So from the other legs to the arms, even the hair in my case. I'll be animating it to make it move left and right and rotate. Once you're done with all of that, and you've got everything sort of moving, you'll notice that the legs kind of look awkward. They're just swinging back and forth, and it doesn't really look like she's walking. To make it more realistic, what we'll be doing is that we'll be adjusting the position of the legs. So to do this, you're going to press P to adjust the position, or you can click the arrow on the left of the layer. And then when it brings out, do the same thing. Go back to the start. Click the timer, make a keyframe, and you can move it back and forth. So what I'm doing is that I'm moving the left leg forward and the right leg backwards. And then when you've done this, you've sort of it makes it look a little more realistic. So once you've got your legs moving back and forth, we're going to get to the more difficult part, in a sense, for this tutorial. What we're going to be using is the puppet tool. Now what this does is it creates a mesh on that layer, and you can add points or pins what we're doing here is that we're basically creating joints for our character. These pins allow you to move the layer and warp it. So I'm adding pins on both the left and the right leg. And what we're going to be doing is that we're going to adjust them to make it look more like she's touching the floor, like her feet are moving and bending. So the tricky thing here is that it's kind of hard to see without any solid base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new solid. Any color is fine. I mean, it's more of a... Any color is fine. It's just a guide for you. And after that, you can use this guide to estimate where her foot will be, how the movement will go. And since I've added a point and pin on the front of her foot, we've got kind of like her toes. So we can bend her knee, make her foot raise up. So it's not just the ankles, it's the toe, the flat of the foot. And then as she moves, if you notice, the foot stays in that same position. What we're going to be doing after that is you move to another point, maybe when her foot slides forward or in the middle, and then you adjust it again. Doing this creates more keyframes for that specific layer, and there's a whole bunch of them. So you've got this mesh, and you've got a whole bunch of pins. Now, if you notice underneath the layer, if you expand it more, you'll find effects. Now, under effects, you've got something called puppet. Now, under puppet, you've got mask 1. Now, if you open mask 1, you'll notice a whole bunch of pins in the menu. These pins all have their corresponding keyframes. Now, like I said, keyframes basically dictate when your layer is going to be moving. So what I'm doing now is that I'm editing them so that it's more precise. But the thing is, it can get really messy because there's a whole bunch of keyframes hanging around there. You can delete a few keyframes, especially when you've made mistakes. All you have to do is select them and then delete. But at the same time, you can also copy and paste them, move them around, so you can repeat the same action over and over again. And when you've got that, what I'm doing is I'm adding a few finishing touches. So I'm rotating her body as she walks. I'm also going to add some pins to her arms so that she can move around and it looks more realistic. Just add a bit of flair onto the character. I'm going to be animating her eyes. This one only requires position or rotation, so it's not as difficult as the puppet tool. But once you get the hang of it, you've got character rigging down. So here we have our character at the very end. Now that she's walking, I'm removing the guide, and now you can put her in your projects. You can move her around, move the composition to another so that you can create something new. It takes a bit of time to get it all perfect, but once you do, you've got a really good base for character rigging. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Till next time.